Welcome back to another episode of Skid's Garage, and today I'm going to drive my MK2 Escort 100 k's back home after it hasn't actually had a decent drive in 12 years. Last registered 2011. So join me in what it took to get it to this stage, ready for its journey back home, and let's see if I make it home. So, let's hit the road. So welcome back everyone to another episode of Skid's Garage. And today, I'm going to get stuck into my MK2 4-door. Now, this car has got a rebuilt 1600 in it. I put it all back together. Well, a friend of mine, Bob, he rebuilt the engine for me and got it all put in and went to take it for a drive, and sounds like the throwout bearing or something is actually not doing what it's supposed to. It's grinding and causing all sorts of issues. I've tried pulling the gearbox out and I had a bit of trouble. And that was years ago, and I sort of just threw this to the side and forgot about it. So now I'm going to chuck some effort back into it and see if I can sort out this problem and get it driving again. So I managed to pull the actual gearbox off enough to have a look at the pressure plate, and it looks like something's been chewing away at it, like it's brand new clutch, brand new throwout bearing. I've redone the whole lot in this, so I'm not sure exactly what the problem is. So I'm going to pull the box off and I'm going to investigate as to what the problem is and see if I can get one step closer to making this driving again. So let's get into it. So my plan of attack for this is to jack it up on all fours and chuck these stands as high as I can. That way I can get under. From there, the exhaust and tail shaft is already removed. Everything's ready to go. It's just a matter of actually getting the gearbox off. So I'm going to actually drop the front subframe down. So I'm going to drop it down. And then that should give me room to slip the gearbox off, because that's the problem I was having before and I couldn't work out why it wasn't coming out. So I actually stripped everything off the engine, holding it in there, and had plans to pull the engine and gearbox out together. But then I learnt this trick where you drop the subframe and the gearbox should just slip straight out. So I'm going to try that. I've moved my white Escort and my panel van from their locations, swapped them over because the middle bay has a half pit that's dodgy and I don't trust using it. So rather than rolling and crawling over that whilst I'm under the car, swapped it over to this bay where I should have some better ground to roll around on. Having a hoist would be so much easier, but this is what I'm working with. So let's get stuck into this job. So I've got it all jacked up. So if all goes to plan, the gearbox, you can see the end of it there. The gearbox, there it is. The gearbox, I'll just take the gearbox mount off, undo it from the bell housing, undo the bell housing bolts and slip it back. But then the subframe, the front subframe, or cross member, whatever you want to call it, got to undo that and drop the engine down. And then, fingers crossed, it just slips straight on out. So, fingers crossed it goes as easily as I'm making out it is. I'm making it sound easy, but this might be a 10-week project. So, let's find out. So, this is where I'm at. That's the gearbox. It's literally just holding on by the bell housing on the engines, on the dowels. It's all undone. Now I've pretty much got to slide under it, slip it out and let it land on my guts. Done this once before on an Escort, so I know it's not going to crush me, but it's not overly pleasant. So yeah, let's do that awesome task. And there we have it. As easy as that. The gearbox is out. I apologise for the bad lighting. I've got the roller doors closed because it's super windy. Try to minimise unwanted noise. So just dealing with it being a little bit dark in here at the moment. So anyway, that's the gearbox. That's as you can see, the pressure plate's been getting chewed out. So I'm going to pull this box out and see what my thrust bearing looks like. So this is a throwout bearing that's been taken out of that gearbox. Now I'm thinking it might be on backwards. I'm not sure. I'm assuming that face there, if it zooms in, on the bearing should be actually making contact with the pressure plate. Because having a look at it on this side, it looks like that the center carrier or holder, whatever you want to call it for the bearing, if you run your finger across it, it actually protrudes past the bearing, which tells me that when you push your clutch in, that middle surface is actually making contact and just grinding away at it. I'm assuming, I'm going to do a bit more research, but I'm assuming this might be backwards, I don't know, or maybe just been installed wrong. If someone can let me know, that'd be great. So anyway, I'm going to look into it a bit more and see what I can work out. So we're here on day 2, and this is my throwout bearing, all cleaned up and now spins freely. So what was happening before was it was actually installed backwards, and this front face was actually on the back and was fouling out on the bearing carrier, bearing holder, whatever you want to refer to it as. And it was fouling out and wasn't spinning properly. So when it put pressure onto the pressure plates, it would just foul up and not spin and grind away. So that's all sweet now. So I'll grease it all up, reinstall it, chuck the box back in, and that should be that problem fixed. That's the only problem I had with this car running wise, so fingers crossed, we're all sweet. So I've now got the gearbox mounted in. So I've chucked the bolt back into the cross member. There's 2 there. One of them snapped, as you'll see over here. That one snapped, so that needs to be sorted out. But it's been held on by 3 bolts at the moment, so that's 75%. That's a pass in my books, so we'll roll with that. The gearbox is all mounted back in, as you can see here. Pretty bad angles I'm getting here, but you get the idea. The gearbox is back in. So now, starter motor, got to go back in. I've got to put the tail shaft. I'll put the exhaust back in, and then up top, I've got to button up the engine, because originally I took all these bits and pieces off, ready to pull the gearbox and engine out together. That's before I learnt the trick of being able to drop the cross member with the engine to make room to slip the gearbox on and off. So I got to button everything back on, and yeah, then we should be all sweet. So I'm going to get stuck into all that, and I'll be back with yous when that's all back together. So this is where we're at now. So under here I have the tail shaft put back in. So that's gearbox all mounted up. No exhaust, I'm not going to worry about the exhaust at the moment. All my clutch cable and everything all put in, if you can see it over there. Got all my fuel line and everything all connected up. Buttoned everything up on here, got everything but a radiator, but everything, and exhaust obviously. Everything else should be pretty sweet. And I'm going to now try my luck in getting it started, see if she fires up. If she does, I'll chuck some fuel in the carb into the fuel tank and see if it picks it up from the tank, and then see if she runs again. From there, I'll probably end up needing to do some fine adjustments to my clutch, and then we'll see if my throwout bearing is fixed, which is the sole reason I'm doing this. So let's get stuck into trying to get it running. Cool, so let's see if we can get her running. Well, that was too easy, but I always knew it was going to be easy. Freshly rebuilt engine, had it running recently, so no surprise there. So she fires up, let's get some fuel in the tank and see if the pump picks it up from the tank and it can just run on its own. Okay, so I've got it all running now. So jump in here. There we go. So really loud because I've got no exhaust. It's just coming straight out the manifold there. But it runs. So let's test out this throwout bearing and see when I apply the clutch whether it makes a horrific grinding noise like it was previously. So let's do that. Well, that doesn't seem to be making any noise, so I reckon that's all fixed. So, getting stuck back into this, all I've really got left to do is the radiator. So chuck the radiator in, the exhaust, it's going straight out the manifold there, so I'll chuck the exhaust back on. And then I reckon the only other thing is I've got to chuck the gear stick in. So I'll piece all that together. I'll probably have to make some adjustments to the clutch and stuff, but tinker around with it, put the last few pieces on, and then fingers crossed I can get it down off the jacks, and then we can hopefully, with any luck, take it for a quick drive. So I'll keep tinkering with it, I'll keep getting stuck into it, and yeah, let's get this done. So this is all the parts in a nutshell. So the radiator, radiator shield, hoses, gear stick, all my clutch, that clutch lever boot, my gear stick boots, and the exhaust. That pretty much in a nutshell is what I've got left to do, so let's get stuck into it and let's get this done. So I'm in the motions of getting this exhaust back on, And then there's this little ring. This little ring sits in this flange here and then sits up into the manifold and just seals it off. But as I was giving it a quick wipe over, I dropped it. And this is what happened. It broke. I don't have a spare one, so what I'm going to do is try to utilize this broken one for the meantime and put it on my to-do list to replace later down the track. Yeah, hopefully this works. We're about to find out. So that's a real pain in the ass, but I guess these things happen. And yeah, so let's move forwards and see if this broken ring will fit on that flange properly and not leak. So this is where I'm at. The radiator is now in. It has water. The exhaust is in. Getting that broken ring in there and to seal properly was an absolute pain in the ass, but we got there in the end and it seemed to be sealing. And I got the gear stick all in. So there's a gear stick there, all in. All seems to be working fine. So from here, I need to actually put some gearbox oil in the gearbox because there's no oil in it. So I'll shoot off, I'll get some oil for that. And that's pretty much it. So let's get this oil, let's get some oil in this box, and then we're one step closer to being able to drive it out. So now it's pieced together. I've had it idling for a while. Everything seems to be going well. Whilst it was idling, I gave the windows a quick clean. As you can see there, that's what it looked like. That's what it looks like now. So I've done this side, the front, the back. I've squirted that down, but that's only dust. That's not actually bird poo. But then this window, I thought I'd show you a before and after. So here's the before. What I'm washing it with is vinegar, and it seems to be just eating through it really well. So I'm going to dose that up with some vinegar, and then I'm going to clean it. So have a good look at that, and next you'll see it all clean. And that is far from perfect, but I can see through it again. So there you go. It's a bit smudgy and stuff, but that's a quick once over. I just needed to be able to see through the windows because I do need to take this for a test drive. So I need to at some point get into washing the body, but not quite yet. Let's just concentrate on making sure it runs and drives. So yeah, there you go. That gives you an idea of a before and after. So everything's done. I've set it all up, ready to go for a drive. So it's only literally going to be out of the shed, turn around, come back in kind of thing. Because it's unregistered, I can't be driving it on the road. So I'm just trying to do a quick little test, make sure she's all sweet, and then I'll progress further in getting it actually ready for rego. So let's jump in and go for a drive. I'll try to set the tripod up. Well, the tripod's broken, so I'll try to set something up to see it drive out of the shed. But we'll see how we go. So let's do this. So there you have it, in our runs and drives. So few little things to do, and then the goal for this is to actually drive it back home, which is about an hour or so away. So it needs to be fairly reliable to make the trip. So yeah, it's just a little bit of TLC, final touches, some rego, then the goal is to drive it home, but we'll see how we go with that, but that is the goal. So that's now the white Escort and blue Escort that run and drive, and have actually been driven into the shed. So now I've got to get this pile of crap going. So what I have decided to do is to actually wash it. So I had some water that I just put in some bottles for the radiator, but then the radiator didn't need it, so I've chucked it in a bucket. And I know you're not supposed to use dishwashing liquid, but I'm going to just do the first wash with dishwashing liquid, and we're going to see how it comes out. So let's do a quick walk around just to get an idea of what the before looked like. Once I run over it real quick with just some water. It's cold water, it's not even warm water, so we'll see how this comes out. So it's majority dust and stuff, so there's a bit of pigeon crap on it, so we'll see how that comes out. So that's the before. Let's see what it looks like after. So there you go, one quick once over. Didn't come out nowhere near as good as I would have liked, but it is looking significantly better than what it did. I'm going to have a lot of trouble trying to get this pigeon poo off. So there's little bits on the door, but then there's heaps on the roof. I tried scrubbing at it, it's not coming off easy, so that's something I'm going to have to battle with later. But if I was to jump into this and drive it home today, which I'm not going to, it would be clean enough. It would get me home. So I'm going to see what else needs doing to it to get it driving home. So there you go, that's a wash anyway. Okay, so after taking it for a test drive, it's not running right. It's just really boggish. Feels like when you're trying to drive, it's just got nothing behind it. So it kind of feels like it could be a fuel problem. So I'm going to take the fuel, carby, take the carby off, give that a good clean, because there could be gunk in that. And I know all my emission controls and stuff are probably not on right, so I'm going to run over them again and make sure they're all sweet. It's pretty congested in there, a lot going on. So let me pull it down and we'll get into clean the carby and making sure my emission controls are on properly and there's no vacuum leaks or anything like that. So, and then take for another test drive and see if it's fixed the problem. So how this emission controls work, there's two hoses on the distributor. So there's a hose on the side and hose on the top. Now how I've currently got it connected is a hose on the side I've got connected up to the carby. There's a little thing it slips onto under the carby there. The hose on the top I've got running to my manifold, so a little part that's on top of the de-acceleration valve, and then that splits off to here, and that goes into the bottom of my, goes onto that little part there, and that's supposed to control a valve that's in here. Where there's supposed to be a valve, it's supposed to be a little flap in there, which controls, what's that? That's like a thermostatic thing. Ran off vacuums, and that's supposed to control whether it sucks in hot or cold air. Then there is the deceleration pump. The deceleration pump is this part right here that you'll see. That bolts onto the manifold. That's got, obviously, that hose I just spoke of, that goes into the manifold. It's also got this hose that runs off the side of it there. That runs up to the carby and is this hose right here. So that just runs up there and to whatever that is. If you want a more in-depth understanding of how this all works, there's plenty of information on the internet. Then there is the, under here somewhere, if I can find it, where this hose here leads to. Goes down to like an oil separator with a PCV valve. So it's essentially a, you can kind of see it down there. It's essentially a oil catch can. That runs into the manifold there, so it needs a vacuum. So there's like a T-piece right here. Goes to the oil separator. This one here goes to your brake booster. There should be a anti-dieseling valve, which I haven't got installed, which I will hopefully install back on. Let's have a look. It's all plugged in. It's right there. That's supposed to, when you turn the ignition off, it opens up a valve and sucks in a whole heap of extra air. It's supposed to result in the car essentially stalling, or because these engines were apparently supposed to continue running sometimes when with no ignition. So when you turn the car off, it just keeps running. So they've created this valve thing here, so when the ignition is turned off, it'll open up, sucking in extra air, causing the engine to essentially shut itself off. At the moment, I don't have that connected. That should connect into between the oil separator and the T-piece in here. At the moment, I've just got this extremely long hose on it. So I'll see if I can T-piece that in. Otherwise, all the emissions seem pretty good. Doesn't look like I've got any vacuum leaks. I've got a funny feeling, I could be wrong, but I've got a funny feeling these two hoses down here, so this one here and that one there, might be around the wrong way, but I would assume that wouldn't cause too many running problems. Not the running problems I'm experiencing anyway. Anyway, I'm going to take this carby off. I'm going to give it a good clean, because my guess is the running problem's probably the carby picking up a whole heap of gunk. I've had this problem before in a car, and it kind of feels like the same sort of problem I've got on this. So I'll pull the carby off, give it a good clean, and see if that happens to fix my problem. So the carby is off now, and what I'm going to do is actually take the top half off. Just simply screw down with these screws. There's about 6 of them. Take that off, and then I'm going to use just this here, some throttle body and carby cleaner, and I'm going to squirt through all the little ports and jets and everything that's through it to make sure that it nothing's blocked. But my suspicions are that when I crack this open, my fuel bowl chamber is going to have a whole heap of gunk in it, considering this has sat around for so long. And I reckon what's happening is that the gunk in that is actually getting sucked up and causing problems, pretty much starving the car of fuel. Because when I actually press the throttle and I'm using the throttle pump, it seems to be okay. It's when I'm trying to actual cruise and actual drive with just without it fluctuating the throttle pedal, that it starts having the problems. So yeah, that's my guess. There's gunk in this and the carby's picking it up and starving the car of fuel. So let me pull this carby down and give it a good clean. So that's the top half taken off. This is what the carby looks like on the inside. If you see my previous videos of the blue Escort, you'd see I've already shown videos of me playing around with the top half. So, but anyway, for the bottom half, I reckon there might be some, it doesn't look too bad, but that's with fuel in it. But that's the fuel chamber, bowl, whatever you want to call it. And there might be some gunk. You don't need a lot because these jets and everything are tiny. Don't need a lot of gunk to be caught to cause a running problem. So I'm going to empty that fuel and then give it a good spray down and then spray all the little ports and jets and everything else. Anywhere where I can squirt that carby cleaner through, I will. And clear out any potential blockages and make sure that chamber there is nice and clean. So I'm going to get stuck into that. So I've reckon this might be the problem. You can see in there, I'll shake it around a little bit. Yeah, there we go, I've disturbed it a bit. In that corner of the carby, you can actually see heaps of rubbish, heaps of gunk. Give it another shake, see it all moving about. So I reckon that might be my problem. I'm going to clean this carby out, put it back together, and fingers crossed that's the fault, because they're pretty big chunks. Doesn't take a lot to have these carbies have problems. Don't need a lot of rubbish, and that's fairly big chunks right there. So anyway, I'll give this carby a good clean. So the carby's all back on. I did swap those two hoses around on the distributor there, so we'll see if that makes any difference. Pretty sure when I read the service manual, I reckon I learned that they might have been around the wrong way, so I'm going to swap them over anyway, see if it makes any difference. Anyway, carby's all back on, and I'm going to fuel filter down there, tucked away. There she is. I'm going to change that as well. So once that's all done, I'm going to fire it up, see if it runs, and then take it for a test drive. So everything's pieced back together. You can see down there, brand new fuel filter. This is the old one. I don't know if you can really, it's a really old filter. Oh, there we go. You can see in there little bits of gunk. So it's definitely picking up a dirty fuel. Been sitting around for that long. I wouldn't expect much more. So anyway, that's all done. I'm now ready to fire it up and see if it runs any better. So I've been having this ongoing problem with a flat tire. You can tell tire's pretty well knackered, but I'm going to see if I can get a little bit more life out of it. I'm trying to get this home as cheaply as possible. As dodgy as that might be, I'm going to give it a whirl. So I'm going to put a whole heap of this in it, and with any luck that'll seal it. It'll hold air. Then I'll pump it up with my pump that I've got here. Fingers crossed it'll hold air this time, because yeah, it's getting annoying constantly having to pump it up, and I don't want it to go flat during the trip home. Once it's home, I'll start looking at replacing things like old tires and stuff. So anyway, I'm going to get stuck into this. So the tire slime is in, and now I'm pumping it up. So fingers crossed it'll hold air. If not, well, it's just a waste of money, and I'll just have to get a new tire. But I've used this before on other tyres, and it seems to have worked well for me in the past. So anyway, I'm I'm going to pump this wheel up and we'll see how we go. So there we have it. I've got it running really nice now. It's not missing, it's not sluggish. It's, as soon as you put your foot down on the pedal, there's power there, no hesitation. So I reckon I've got it all dialed in. So I adjusted the timing, not timing, sorry, the idle, got it at about 700. And then I adjusted the air fuel. You can't really see it there. See if I can, so this one right here, you adjusted that one, that's your air fuel ratio. So I just adjusted that in and out until I found a nice medium. And then this one right here, that one there is your idle. That just opens and closes the throttle. That way you get a desired idle. And yeah, that seems to be it. So it's running really nice now. From here, I'm pretty sure the only other two things I've got to do is adjust the clutch. The clutch pedal is a little too high. I'm going to do a few little adjustments on that. And my speedo's not working. The cable in the back's not plugging in properly, so I'll have a play around with that. Other than that, I'm pretty sure we're kind of on the home stretch now of actually getting this home. So anyway, I'll do those final little touches and we'll see how we go. So there we have it. It's ready to for its drive back home. So I've adjusted the clutch. Good little trick I've used to do that is a 3mm bit of well, this is aluminium, but anyway, anything that's 3mm, they suggest 3 to 4mm slack in the cable. So I've slipped that in as a guide, and now the clutch feels so much better. Taking it for a quick test drive, I learnt there was no diff oil, and now I know what it sounds like to have a diff with no oil in it. So there's now oil in that. Gearbox is good, plenty of oil in that. This tyre over here seems to be holding up, so we'll see if that's still holding air when we come back to pick it up and take it home. It's, yeah, pretty much it. That's it. It's ready to go. There's not a lot more I can do to this that will stop me from taking it home, so I might as well just jump in it and take it home and tinker with it at home where it's a bit easier. So let's get this trip going. 100 Ks, let's do it. Fingers crossed I don't break down, but who knows. So I'll see yous all back home if it makes it. So I'm 40 Ks, and so that doesn't even make it halfway. And my temperature, if you can see it past all this dust, it's getting a little too high for my liking. So I've pulled over. I'm going to let it cool down. I've got some coolant to chuck into it, so I might just do that. So better play safe than sorry. So yeah, that's it. It's made the initial 40 Ks and yeah, giving me grief. I've got another 60 odd to go, so this could be a long trip. So I'm about 20 odd Ks away from home and she's getting pretty hot again. So I'm just going to turn her off, let her cool down, and sit here until hopefully she gets cool enough to get me home. Nearly there. Hopefully she'll get there. So what I did previously was I dropped the bottom hose and dropped a whole heap of coolant, chucked in a whole heap of actual proper green coolant, and that got me this far. So, and now for whatever reason it's overheating again, so I guess it is what it is after sitting around for 12 years. So I'm going to let it cool down and then get back into it. So I pulled into a servo on the way home. I'm going to give it a quick squirt down. As you can see, it's a bird shit, so I'm going to give it a squirt down, try to get rid of most of that as much as I can with just a casual squirt down, because I don't want that on my front lawn when I squirt it down at home and give it a proper wash. So give it a squirt down and see if I get it much cleaner than what it currently is. So do that, then I'll do the last stint back home and we'll be all sweet. She's all washed and ready to go now. I just hope that she starts back up. Questionable considering I watered down the engine, but that's the closest it's had to any sort of wash for many years now. So last time it was driven was obviously 2011, so 12 years ago. Probably would have been much longer since its last wash. But this should come up reasonably well with a scrub. This been stubborn, but that'll do. So finish off the trip home and we'll look into in the near future giving it a proper wash. So let's do that. So it's the next day. It got too dark last night when I got home to do any videos, but she's home. Finally got it home. So from here, I want to, the whole idea of getting it home was I needed to get it home before my wife gave birth, because once our newer little addition to the family arrives, I'm going to lose all free time to be able to do anything. So I wanted to get this home and get it ready for small Ford show for February. So that's my plan. So from here I'm going to get stuck into giving it a wash, but that'll be on another episode of Skid's Garage. So join us on the next episode and see how clean she gets. But wait, I wanted to do a final verdict on the tyre slime that I chucked into this tyre. 3 weeks since I drove it home and it's holding up. Haven't added any more air to it. And that tyre was looking pretty well knackered. So there you go. Tyre slime does work. So, thanks for watching. And I'll see yous all on the next episode of Skid's Garage.